So there you have it. It's official. The cat's out the bag. The watch market has officially tanked. I mean, if you've been following this closely, you've realized that the prices just aren't there anymore the way they used to. I said it in the last video that I did on the market update, where I talked about the Daytona Panda. Was anybody really buying these watches? And people said yes. I, for one, was not able to sell one at all. And now that I'm realizing, how did they sell those watches at that price? I mean, $50,000 for a Daytona Panda? It's crazy. Things have officially come down now, and there's gonna be a lot of consequences to that correction. So the scary part about all this is that some people actually did buy these Daytonas at 55, 50, so on and so forth, because I got plenty of messages about it. And you know, the only thing I could say is, welcome to the club. If you're in the watch world and you do collect watches, sometimes you buy watches that don't retain the full value. That's the way that watch collecting is. The good news is that most of your money is there. Yeah, you can lose 20 or 30% on a buy like that. That's how it used to be back in the old days. You'd go and pay full retail for any watch and you'd probably lose 20 to 30% on it. This whole recent thing that's been going on the last 4 or 5 years, where you kind of buy a watch and it keeps increasing almost like Bitcoin, it's kind of like a new thing. Hasn't been seen yet. Before, you'd have to buy a watch and wait 35, 40 years for it to become vintage, then get sold at some auction or antique roadshow where you finally see some massive gains. And now we're here and things have definitely cooled off. So in reality, what does this say about the watch market and the watch business? The first thing I want to say is, so long to all the watch flippers. All those guys that jumped in on this gold rush and started working their ways into the ADs and thinking that you can buy a two-tone Daytona for $18,000 out the door and flip it for $25,000 overnight. Those days are gone. You're lucky if you even get retail and tax of what you paid. All of a sudden, buying one of these watches and making only $1,000 on this flip is not enough for you. So you see how that feels. Where before, the flippers were buying watches, making $10,000 and expected us, the real dealers in the market, with the real outlets for these purchases, to make only $700 or $800. Now the tables have turned. Now they're desperately trying to get rid of these watches. And unfortunately, we're not buying them at those prices. We're just not there anymore. The market is not where it was in February. So if you bought any of these watches and you held off a little bit too long, thinking this was Bitcoin, you're gonna feel the bite right now. You're gonna feel the bite, and this is where I think a lot of these flippers are gonna be gone. Gone with the wind. Only the real heavy-duty ones will still stay around. Only the real ones that were properly able to fund this with real assets, not large credit lines or Amexes. That's gonna be the real difference. The first thing I like to say is that the first casualty of this correction are the watch flippers. The problem is that, yes, some of these guys are gonna make it out okay and they made some good money during these last 2 years, while others maybe perhaps loaded up at the end and stayed with a couple pieces thinking that they're gonna rise to the top. And then once this correction happened, might just wipe out all the money they might have made from the beginning. It is what it is. I guess we'll have to see them in the next market rise, which God knows when that will happen. I think at the end, even the brands will feel a little bit of this drama, because now nobody's really wanting to buy the watches so much at retail anymore, because let's just face it, they're not able to flip it as much. I would say that 2 out of every 3 watches that left the ADs were flipped for profit by these flippers / profiteers / whatever you want to call them. The thing about them is that they really have no skin in this business. They don't really take the time to learn the etiquette and really put some time and dedicate it to this business, because it just isn't their business. It's just an opportunity to get the watches and make some money. Yes, some of you at home are gonna say, well, Eric, says the guy that's selling watches over retail. Well, I sell the watches over retail, under retail, wherever the market is, I'm gonna buy the product and I'm gonna sell it, because this is what I do, this is what I've learned to do, this is what I've trained to do, and this is what I love to do. Next casualty of this correction is gonna be the overnight watch dealer. Yes, of course. Separate from the watch flippers, there's also these overnight dealers that rushed into the gold rush and overnight decided, says, hey, let's stop selling sneakers and let's start selling watches. You know, problem with these guys too is that a lot of them are good guys. The biggest problem is that they maybe did not see the warning signs early in the market, and if they were caught holding the merchandise after it took a 20 to 30% dive, they're gonna hurt significantly, especially if they're doing it with borrowed lines of credit or perhaps funded money. I would say one of the biggest challenges these guys have, including the flippers, is that most of their transactions were done business to business or flipper to business, where they really don't have any end users to sell to. They just don't have the outlets. And that is gonna be one of the major problems and the major dramas they're gonna have right now to overcome, because they just simply have nobody to move the watches to. Now, the real dealers are still buying. I'm still buying, but we gotta buy more cautious. We can't buy at those prices from before. And I would say that's one of the biggest challenges right now in the current market is trades. The problem is you got a guy who wants to buy, I don't know, just name whatever watch. Let's say it's a $200,000 Nautilus, okay? And now the price is $150. Problem is that they wanna do a couple trades. Of course, they wanna buy the Nautilus at today, July of 2022's price of $150. But the problem is that their trades, they want to get credited from the prices in February. That is the problem. And I know it's tough, and I understand that. Some of these guys paid over retail, way over retail, which I could understand. Nobody wants to take a loss. Some of these guys can't let go of the fact that their $100,000 Meteorite GMT used to go for $100K in February, and now it's worth a lot less. Probably around 60, 65, you know, even 70. 30K loss for them is too massive, but in reality, it's not a loss because they didn't buy it. What they're losing is loss of opportunity to make money. But it is what it is. You got to adapt to the market. That's the only way to survive. The good news for you guys at home that are still looking to buy your watches is there's going to be some good deals. The deals are there right now. Watches have reduced massively in the middle of the coronavirus, okay? I said it. I said the prices are gonna be good. It's gonna be a good time to buy. And 100 of you guys on the comments said it's gonna be a full economic collapse, blah, blah, blah. Yes, I get it. Things happen in the economy that were artificial. But however, if you would have bought one, I would have said you could have still weathered the storm to where we are at prices today, and you'd still be up. I guess the most important question that everybody wants to know is, have we reached the floor in the prices? And the reality is that we really will not know. I always felt that prices may go back to where they were last year, and that's kind of where we're at right now. That rally at the beginning of this year was just way too intense. Prices got way too out of control. Watches are not Bitcoin. They're hard assets you can put money into, and your money is gonna be mostly there. It's not this crypto BS with all these gains and all this whatever. With hard gains comes also hard losses. You just gotta know when to get out. But I think watches will still be good investments even in today's market. The question is, where's it gonna go? I don't know. It's gonna be an interesting 6 months. Easily to the end of this year and to the beginning of next is when I think we'll really be able to see where the market's gonna go, if it's gonna go back up. I do think there could be a small rally. I don't see them projectedly going all the way down, you know, where you can get a Panda Daytona for $15,000. Forget about it. I don't think that's gonna happen. And for everyone out there saying that, you know, the watch market bubble has blown up, I mean, if you haven't looked around, everything blew up. Crypto blew up, watches blew up, cars blew up. Real estate is starting to crack. Real estate is usually one of the ones at the end that take the longest to crack, but it's cracking too. Have a look at the stock market, blown up. Everything blew up. I knew it wasn't gonna be just a watch market bubble, but here we are. The good news is that if you bought watches for the long haul and you're really into the watch game, you're gonna be okay. The bad news is that if you're a watch flipper in your mother's basement, it's probably time to panic. comment below if you think we have reached the floor on the current watch prices. And stay tuned for some exciting changes in the watch game and on my YouTube channel.